Welcome to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. December 1st. Happy December, everybody. Recording this one on a Monday. Gonna upload it probably tomorrow on a Tuesday. And we got some awesome matches to preview here. We got a number of new subscribers lately, so we're gonna just try to pedal to the metal and hopefully give you what you want. But it is Cup week in Germany, so Bayern Munich will be playing Union Berlin, a revenge match in the DFB Pokal Round of 16, and then Chelsea 30 minutes later will be playing Leeds in the Premier League. So welcome in, everybody. And Jim, how are you?
I am terrific. There's more snow in Milwaukee, which is an interesting thing. Don't love driving in it. Not that there was a ton, but just throws a wrench into things in my life. But nonetheless, I'm excited to talk some football here because there's so many games in the month of December. I mean, we're on an insane stretch right now for both teams, for Bayern leading up into the break, for them in the Bundesliga, and Chelsea just keep chugging along basically forever and ever through March. So it's going to be very interesting. There's so many games.
Yeah, no matter what's going on in your life, there's pretty much always going to be football. Even if that does include a blizzard, which we were on about in our last episode, breaking down the weekend's matches. And yeah, it just keeps snowing here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So it's maybe going to be a white Christmas. We'll see. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Why don't we just jump into these matches here? And of course, like, subscribe, comment, putting the banner up to make sure that you remember to do that. It means the world, and we really do appreciate each and every one of you who watches, likes, comments, subscribes, etc. So let's talk about the Pokal match first, since this one is, just 30 minutes before 1:45 Central Standard Time. And Bayern Munich travels to Berlin, the scene of the crime, where they got their first draw of the season. I'm not one who's saying that Bayern's necessarily spiraling, but it did show maybe a little bit of a chink in the armor of the team that was, up until that point, invincible to the level of winning all their matches, not even any draws. So yeah, I think Bayern's going to be fired up for this one. And honestly, I think that adds maybe a little bit of extra spice, which, if you're a player, you shouldn't need it. It's a cup match. Any of these matches can be kind of crazy, and the crowds are for sure crazy. So you shouldn't need the extra spice. But I think that draw in Berlin just a few short weeks ago will give them any sort of extra motivation that they may be looking for.
Yeah, I think the combination of the last match against Union Berlin combined with a cup match here, combined with some poor play from Bayern lately, all those things will lead to a Bayern easy win here. I just think the boys will be jazzed to play this one. Some midweek football. It's kind of just a break from Champions League slog, league slog. You got this exciting cup match. I think Vincent Kompany is going to really go at it and take this one for what it is. And that's going to be an important victory for Bayern. So I'm excited to see this one. Certainly at least the first portion before Chelsea start. And then, yeah, I just think it's going to be a really exciting match for Bayern.
Yeah, and if you're into looking at the odds, you can see here, even if you're not into looking at the odds, you might as well understand what the odds makers are thinking in terms of who has a better chance. So yeah, Bayern, is looking like the favorite here, minus 345. Berlin is plus 700. So those are some, I guess, good odds if you want to bet on Berlin, if you really think they're going to take this one. But yeah, you look at the last 10 matches here head to head. Actually, a good amount of draws. Bayern drew Berlin last year as well. Obviously, the match we were just talking about this year. But if you look at this year, Union Berlin has 0 wins in the last 10 against Bayern. Bayern has 6 wins, and they've drawn 4 times, as mentioned. So I don't know. That's just something interesting to look at one way or the other. And it makes sense to me, honestly. Berlin is a team under Steffen Baumgart who, they don't have a lot of good attackers, but they are a very solid defensive team. They have a good enough midfield. And their game plan, I can guarantee you, is going to be to, come out firing, press really hard in the first 20 minutes or so, and then hopefully get an early goal and sit back and defend. I can, again, guarantee you that's what they're going to do.
And as we talked about in this last match against St. Pauli, that's what these teams need to do against Bayern. You need to come out and really try to get a goal right away, because if you don't get a goal right away, you're just going to lose the match. You basically have no chance. So I would agree. That's probably what Berlin's going to do. We'll see if Bayern can really hold strong. I think they will be able to, because they know what's coming.
Yeah, I think so too. As a little spoiler, but we will, give you a prediction at the end of this preview. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I wanted to pull up here Union Berlin's recent form real quick. They had a loss this week to Heidenheim. I believe it was 2-1. Yeah, 2-1 at home, which is a brutal loss. Heidenheim is they were the 18th place team in the Bundesliga. They might have actually bumped up to 17th or 16th with this win, but regardless, they're a relegation side. And so this is a horrible loss for Union Berlin. Before that, you will see this 1-0 match to St. Pauli. Union Berlin won on the road, which that's a pretty good win. I did watch that one, was rooting on St. Pauli, and was super disappointed. And then you got the Bayern match. Drawing to Freiburg is also relatively impressive, just because Freiburg is a team that on paper is better than Berlin. So this isn't a bad result. And then before that, you have Arminia Bielefeld in the cup. Actually, Berlin beat them 2-1, I think, as well. Yeah, 2-1, and after extra time. So Bielefeld is a team who actually made it all the way to the final in the cup last year. So, they're one of those teams who can be a little bit feisty in the cup. So I would say that's a good win. Overall, I'd say Union Berlin is in solid form. But this loss, this was bad. I mean, this is inexcusable in my mind if you're Union Berlin.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they've played a couple relegation teams lately since drawing Bayern. So not sure how that will necessarily affect you, but it's certainly just a hilarious Bayern sandwich right there that you have. So it's going to be interesting to see if Berlin players can be up to the test that Bayern will bring.
Yeah, we'll see. And just to go through their squad real quick, I mentioned Steffen Baumgart. He's a pretty good coach. I think he does a good job at getting the most out of a team like Union Berlin, in my mind. But yeah, I mean, you look at their roster and really not a lot of attacking firepower. I mean, these aren't really like household names whatsoever. Even as somebody who watches the Bundesliga, regularly, a lot of these guys aren't. I'm not super familiar with, like Oliver Burke. You got some good players here. I don't know where Doki is. He's one of their brightest attackers. Maybe they're categorizing him. They're categorizing him as a defender. Skov is another one. But like just looking at these players here, really not a lot of household names whatsoever.
Yeah, I can't pretend to know a lot about Union Berlin. It's funny. I believe at one point they actually had Brendan Aronson, I want to say, who's now on Leeds, which is kind of funny. So I'll be talking about him in a little bit. I could be completely wrong there, but I'm pretty sure he was. They also had David Datro Fofana at one point on loan from Chelsea, who has now since left Chelsea. But yeah, Berlin, I will not, again, pretend to know much about this team. All I will say is that some of these younger teams that do have some success in the recent past against Bayern, they're going to play like it. They're going to play like they really have nothing to lose and with confidence, which could be something to watch.
Yeah, they certainly do have a couple of young German players, and I think they're kind of in just like a transition between, figuring out an identity, figuring out, if these young guys they have are going to be able to make it in the Bundesliga, really. And yeah, again, like they're just a team that is solid as a unit. They don't really have that individual talent, but they do have the ability to, create a cohesive shape. Again, good midfield, good defense. So that's kind of what you're looking at with this Union Berlin side. And then obviously, as far as Bayern Munich goes, we don't need to harp on recent form or anything because we talk about them all the time on this show. But they did get that 3-1 win over St. Pauli in the Bundesliga this weekend. A little closer than the scoreline indicates. Lost to Arsenal 1-3. Yeah, not a good match for Bayern in that one. Beat Freiburg 6-2 here after going down 0-2, and then that Union Berlin draw. And before this match here, again, this is why I'm referencing it a little bit in jest, but their form did kind of take a dip after this match. This was the cursed match here because before that, dominated PSG for a half and still got the win. Leverkusen beat 3-0 with their B team on the pitch. Köln in the Pokal, this was their last cup match, 4-1 after going down 1-0. So, I guess maybe a familiar pattern here. But yeah, I mean, Bayern was looking like the best team in Europe. Now they're on a little bit of a dip, but, should still certainly have what it takes to get the win in this one.
Yeah, and as I've talked about a million times on this podcast, you're going to have dips in form, and you just never know what players are going to show up. Let's be honest. A lot of these players can be inconsistent at times, and we've seen that, especially wing players, attacking players. But I do think Bayern's talent is just really going to shine through here, as we start to look at the lineups here. I think they're going to put together a strong lineup, and I think they're going to really show out against this Berlin team.
Yeah, and as far as my predicted lineup goes, I do think Kompany's going to go with his best 11. So my predicted lineup is going to be this one, with the exception of Pavlovic over Goretzka. I think he's gonna start Pavlovic and Kimmich in the midfield there. There's a chance he could maybe start like a Bischoff at left back, or Ito if he's healthy enough. I'm not sure if he is, but I think it's going to be Neuer, Leimer at right back, Upa and Ta, Stanisic at left back, Kimmich, Pavlovic, Olise, Gnabry, Diaz, and Kane. So that's how I think it's going to go, and that's honestly probably what I would go with too if I was Kompany.
Yeah, no, I just think you got to be strong here when you've had this dip in form. You don't want to mess things up and go with a bunch of guys that you maybe can't trust. Do I think lesser talent here could still beat Union Berlin? Yeah, I do, but I just think you might as well roll with your top dogs here. And there's one top dog that is a real dog that is the key to everything.
I think we know who we're talking about here, and let's just forget these last two matches because before that, dynamite dog right there.
But that shows the correlation.
It does, and you need to put these two together, Leimer and Olise. I mean, it's really just like a classic love story. They're not the same without each other, and they need each other to be complete, I would say.
Okay, that's crazy.
No, it's a truly platonic relationship that these two have. Let's just say that. But yeah, with this kind of a lineup here, I'm gonna go with a 2-1 win Bayern. And could this lineup, come in and boat race Berlin? Yeah, they could. They've shown that they have the talent to do that. I just think that these cup matches are so tough to call. The crowd in Union Berlin is a great crowd. It's one of the best in the Bundesliga, and I think that really helped them last time. But like I said, I think Bayern's just going to be fired up enough this time to get the job done. I do think it's going to be a close match for a while, but I think Bayern's gonna come out with the win. So I'm going 2-1 as my final score prediction.
Yeah, I think it'll be an easy win for Bayern. I don't recall what my prediction was. I want to say it might have been 3-0.
3-1, I think you said.
Something like that. Point being, Bayern will have an easy win here. They'll be up 2-0 at half with a Harry Kane brace, so I'm not too worried about it.
Let's hope that's the case. But yeah, in the meantime, let's talk about this Chelsea match because Chelsea does have an EPL match midweek as well against Leeds.
And you could argue it's more important than the Arsenal and Barcelona matches combined, which is crazy to say, but these types of matches just become so huge when you're playing well and when you need to pick up 3 points. And going on the road up north in England to Leeds away. Not an easy thing to do. Leeds can be a finicky team at times. We've seen when they're in the Premier League, they can really give anybody a challenge. So as long as you take the opponent seriously, you probably shouldn't have some trouble, but it's going to be an interesting one. These midweek English matches are always very, very interesting.
Yeah, interesting for sure. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say comparing it to the Arsenal and the Barca match here. I think, but these are the kind of matches that Chelsea needs to win and win handily if they're going to be serious about really challenging Arsenal for the title. To be honest.
Yeah, that piece is definitely true. And what I said, one of my takeaways was in the Arsenal match was that I think Chelsea can compete for a title if they get their shit together. By getting their shit together, one of those components that I was talking about was playing up to every single opponent, not down. So you play up to Arsenal, you play up to Barcelona. Now you need to keep that level where it is against a team like Leeds, who's in the relegation battle right now in the Premier League. And yeah, they look decent against Man City this last weekend, but you need to play at a top level against a lesser opponent.
Yeah, that's where Chelsea has struggled this year so far. I mean, let's be honest. They play with anybody, like you said. They play with and sometimes crush Barcelona. I'm looking at you, the big dogs, and they also play down to and sometimes draw or lose to the little puppies. So it's just this is one again. Like Chelsea needs to turn it on, and they need to get a easy enough win where they can rest guys and just not take their foot off the gas because Chelsea has a lot of momentum right now. So keep it going.
They do have momentum, which is great. Vegas does agree with us as well that Chelsea are slight road favorites here, not quite as big as favorites as Bayern on the road, but minus 133 is not something to scoff at when you're on the road in the Premier League. We'll see, if that ends up being the case. But if you want to go to Leeds here in their recent matches, so they just played this weekend against Man City, ended up losing 3-2, but had a strong second half. They really kind of played well in that second half to get a couple goals. I don't know how to pronounce Nemeka. I just know he's one of their top players this year so far. In the attack, I'd really look at him and Brendan Aronson as a couple guys that have had solid seasons thus far. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin also scored against Man City. I'm not sure if he's always starting, but he's a strong player in attack as well. We saw him at Everton in the past do some damage against some top teams. So he's one to watch. But yeah, if you go back to their form here, I think it'll be interesting because Leeds, they kind of started the year pretty decent in the Premier League. And you were thinking, okay, Sunderland's been solid, Leeds have been solid. Maybe we'll have more relegated teams stay up. They've really fallen off as of late, as you can see with that form. Only wins against West Ham and Wolves, who we know have been two of the most putrid teams really in all of Europe. So I think Chelsea need to look to take advantage of this poor form as of late from Leeds.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to do a quick numbers crunch, but I'm failing at it because I'm wondering if Nemecha is related to Felix Nemecha, who is, I mean, they look pretty similar. Felix Nemecha is on Dortmund, I should say, in the German Bundesliga.
They are brothers.
They are brothers. Okay, because I was like, man, he does. I was trying to pull up his picture before, and they look similar, so I can see that. Funny.
Yeah, that is interesting. I can't say I know much about him, but I do want to talk about an interesting angle here, and that is the American angle. We'll probably talk about America more and more as we get closer to the World Cup. We are American, obviously, here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Brendan Aronson being on Leeds is something of note and something that I will have interest in watching. I always am hoping for the best for these American players. And you got Aronson, who him and his brother Paxton have been pretty solid. Definitely look out for them as we get closer to the World Cup.
Yeah, looking at this Leeds team here, not a lot of household names on this team either, to be honest with you. Just Nemecha jumped out to me, funnily enough.
Yeah, the names that jump out if you stick there, Okafor, pretty solid forward. I know as you go down to the midfield, then, I mentioned Aronson, more of an attacking midfielder. Longstaff just picked up an injury. He was on Newcastle for a while. He's been one of their better players, so kind of good for Chelsea that he won't be there. Jack Harrison was on Everton, I believe, at one point, and usually is pretty solid. I think he comes off the bench a lot of times for Leeds. And then if we scroll down to the defense, you do have Ethan Ampadu, who is a Cobham Academy graduate, a Welsh player. Chelsea sold him to Leeds, so that is one to note. Can't say I really know any of these other players. I couldn't tell you who their number one goalkeeper is. I don't recognize any of those names. And hopefully we won't remember any of the names because he'll be so bad that he's just not noticeable.
Yeah, just a total afterthought.
Yeah, that is the goal for Chelsea. And let's just take a look at the lineup setup here because Chelsea do have some players that will be out. You're going to have Moises Caicedo out, who's on a 3-match ban after picking up the red against Arsenal on the weekend. Cole Palmer, will he be back? I think he's going to make a cameo in this one. Reece James, either not going to play or only going to play as a cameo. Maresca basically said that he's not going to play 90 minutes after playing 90 against Arsenal. I agree with that decision. So I think it's a mixed lineup that we're probably going to see at this point. I don't think you're going to see Estevao start back-to-back-to-back matches. I think you probably could see Delap after Pedro started this last one against Arsenal. You're probably going to see Gusto since James and Caicedo are out. And then, center back, left back, even in the midfield, you could see a mix of guys. Maybe you see a Hato playing left back. I think Cucurella is probably going to start, but, I wouldn't be surprised if he rotated heavily. And center back, I don't think you'll see Chalobah and Fofana. I would guess Fofana does not start. You probably see maybe a Tosin or an Achimpong. Badiashile as well. I don't know if he's fit to play 90, but I could see Badiashile starting with a Tosin potentially. I'd prefer Achimpong over Tosin, but who knows? It's going to be really one of those matches where you don't know what Maresca's thinking.
Yeah, I foresee a lot of rotation, even outside of the required rotations of Caicedo and kind of James too. I want to see Achimpong on that back line. I really do. And I think this will be a very good opportunity for Santos to kind of prove himself. I don't want to say prove himself because he's been good lately, but maybe just like take a step up in the minds of at least non-Chelsea fans or just football fans in general. Show the world exactly what he can do, maybe, because he's going to be, relied upon heavily in this stretch here. I think without Caicedo, certainly not the worst 3 matches, I guess, to miss Caicedo for, but missing Caicedo at all is tough because he's such an important player for Chelsea and would be for anybody, to be honest. So, yeah, I think as well that Estevao probably won't start. Maybe Neto will. Maybe we'll see Gittins. Maybe we'll see Garnacho. But yeah, I'm interested to see some of these guys who maybe aren't regular starters, and more interested to see who's going to step up because somebody is going to have to step up, and it could be any number of guys, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with your Santos point because he's going to be the key guy here while Caicedo is on this 3-match ban. I think you're going to see him and Enzo for sure. If I had to put, 2 locks in this lineup, it would be Enzo and Santos. When you're in a light midfield situation with multiple guys out, even with Asugo potentially coming back, he's not going to start. So Enzo and Santos there together will be really a good one to watch. I think Santos has been great as of late when he's gotten starts. I think he played great as a 6 the other day when he was playing. So that will be the key really for me if that midfield pairing there can be strong. And I think they have a lot of potential, with Enzo to be free to do what he can do, playmaking, Santos holding down the midfield. I feel pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I do too. I think the midfield is going to be fine, to be honest with you. I also just I need somebody from the striker department to step up. I feel like it's been a number of, and just like these upcoming games that Chelsea has, maybe not even this game in particular, but hopefully you get it started with this game. Pedro or Jalop, score a goal, step up, and like not even just score a goal. I want one of them to like really take over at times in these matches coming up, because I think both of them have been a little bit lackluster overall. Delop obviously was injured, has had some suspension problems with cards, but I haven't seen enough out of him. And João Pedro started off looking like he was going to be an absolute game changer and has since kind of fallen off. So one of those two needs to step up in a big way for me.
Totally agree with that. I mean, this is an opportunity to show that you can be the number one guy, the number 9 on this team. Delop, we saw him score. I think he can potentially do something big here, if he gets the start. But maybe even see a Guiu come in and play well. Who knows? Any of these guys could really take over. And let's not forget, too, you have Cole Palmer that's going to make his debut potentially here since the United game when we saw him go down with the injury. So it's going to be special potentially. You see me starting to crack a smile here because, we've hardly talked about Palmer. He's just been gone, and this Chelsea team are humming without a top 5 player in the world, basically. So it's exciting. This match could be very, very exciting.
Yeah, as a fan of the game of football, look out for Cole Palmer's return, because it's going to be the kind of thing that could really push Chelsea into title contention. And they're already almost in title contention, but it could be the kind of thing that really makes Arsenal sweat, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, and that would be awesome to see Arsenal sweat. I mean, that would be absolutely incredible as a Chelsea fan.
I mean, we had 11 minutes of it over the weekend, and as a Bayern fan too, and just as an Arsenal hater, I want to see them sweat day in and day out, basically.
It would be great. It would be great. Let's talk prediction quick here. I predicted Chelsea 2-1. I just think it's going to be a close midweek match, rotating pieces here. Don't foresee domination. Could it happen? Sure, but I'll take 3 points if they can win 2-1.
Yeah, I forget what my prediction was, but I know that I did foresee domination, and maybe I'd take that a step back with the Caicedo suspension a little bit, but I do think Chelsea's gonna put up like at least, well, I shouldn't say at least, but I'll go with, I don't remember what I went with, but I'll go with 3-0. Yeah, I want to ride the hot hand with Chelsea right now, and I just think that they have a lot of momentum, and I don't see a lot of people that make me shiver with fear on this Leeds team. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, you ended up changing it to 3-0. I think you started
After the
with 4-0.
Caicedo. Yeah. So that's will be my official prediction, 3-0 then, without Caicedo. He would give me a level of confidence and stability, and James to push it up to 4, but we'll stick with the lowly 3-0 Premier League win.
It still would be an awesome win.
I know.
That would be nice and easy and a low stress day for me, which would be awesome.
Yeah, agreed. So I think that's it. I think that's all we got to preview. After the cup match, Bayern does play Stuttgart in the Bundesliga over the weekend. Chelsea plays Bournemouth. We'll be streaming those matches on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's just a I don't want to say like hellish, but it's a big stretch here for all these teams. But I'm looking forward, especially to the cup match on Wednesday, and then to seeing everybody in the comments on a stream over the weekend.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to the weekend. I mean, as I said, just matches galore here coming up, so it's just a great time.
Yeah. So I think with that, we'll send it off here and get ready to see more of us. Get ready to like and subscribe. Get ready to comment. And we'll see you all soon. Mia San Mia.
Up the Chelsea.